Get your shit together. What does that even mean? I was raised to be a manly man. That led me to shoot competitively, join the Army as a cavalry scout, and become a police officer. I didn't do those things for me. I did them because I felt that was what was expected of me as a man. But I didn't feel more like a man. I remember the night I finally had it with that life. I was alone in the desert on a training exercise, forgotten by my unit. I was tired, cold, hungry, and really angry. I'd had it with this bullshit. I was done living a life I didn't want in order to prove to others that I was a man. So I got out of the Army and I started my civilian life. With no college education, no resume, I got lost really fast. I wasn't cut out for the academic world or the world of corporate ladder climbing. And I couldn't find any other paths, my limited view of what men do in the world. I was just lost. I no longer had a mission or purpose. The frustration and anger was all I could feel. It had to be someone else's fault, and I blamed the world. And while I was blaming the world, I felt I was being blamed for just being a man. Unable to succeed, it took all I had to continue moving forward. So I did what popular culture suggested. I distracted myself by buying stuff. That was my car. Muscle car. I went into debt, financing my manliness. And then I had to hide the shame I felt because I was in debt. I saw other young guys struggling with the exact same thing. I saw many older men hiding their failures through life and complaining about everything. Is this what I had to look forward to? It just doesn't seem worth it. But luckily, I remembered that night in the desert, lost, cold, and angry. I made a bucket list, and learning to dance was number 2 on that list. So I found a dance studio, and I arranged for a lesson. It was the most terrifying thing I've ever done. But I walked in, and I met this old guy. Someone who was so completely different than me. I would never have engaged him in the past. I thought he was a hippie. But he had a confidence I knew was based on his understanding of who he was and what he was doing in the world. We talked. He was the first person who showed any interest in helping me at a time when I felt like no one cared about me.
So this guy walks in the dance studio, all conservative and clean cut. A real guy's guy, not the kind of guy I would hang out with, even if I was his age. And after the lesson, I asked him what he was doing. He had a dead-end job and was frustrated. But I saw his desire and I saw his discipline, and I respected him for just coming into the studio and taking a lesson from somebody like me. So we had coffee, and over many coffees, I began to see the struggles he and other young men his age were having just trying to be men in today's society. And oddly enough, they echoed the stage I was going through. I just retired from being an architect, and I was teaching dance, and for the first time, I was facing life without the identity of a profession. What did it mean to be a man now? Well, my training as an architect allows me to see the structure in things. And I saw that every man went through very clear and identifiable stages. And that the stages that my grandfather and father went through were very simple to understand. You go to school, you get a job, you get married and have kids. You spend your whole life making a living and raising a family till you get old enough to retire and visit the grandkids. Well, there weren't a lot of options for men then. They often just followed in their father's footsteps. But they knew where they were at every stage, and they knew what was expected of them. Society is asking something else of men now.
So the map to manhood has changed. The stages are no longer distinct. There's still options for success, and many new ones that didn't exist 50 years ago. But there are countless options that'll take you off that map. With this freedom comes a requirement for conscious responsibility and clear decision-making. With no clear definition of what we're supposed to do other than just get our shit together, many men are just getting lost. And how can we blame them? If this map is confusing for you to figure out, welcome to my world.
I saw that the map of contemporary manhood, men had time. There was a time at the end of being a young man and before taking on the responsibilities of full adulthood, time to get lost, or time to question their view in the world and their place in it. They had time to set their intentions, a time to be a young blood. There was also time at the end of prime adulthood and before you became an old man, a time to view your life in perspective and a time to ask what more you could become. A time to be an OG, an old guy.
So my conversations with Dale pushed the pause button on my headlong rush into finding a career. I could see the stage I was in, and I could release all the expectations on me to succeed at an unreasonable pace. This OG helped me to see the opportunity that I had to ask some essential questions and find my own answers. Like, what kind of man do I want to be? What are my beliefs and values? And what are my talents and passions? These are questions I'd never considered before.
Seeing where Cody was in his stage got me to see the opportunities I had. I didn't want to become just another old man telling stories of what he did when he was younger. There had to be something more than this. But I had time to ask myself questions. What kind of man have I become, and what is left? What is there left in me to offer to the world? And by asking these questions and finding my answers, I became the OG, the old guy. Got it. So, I remembered when I was in graduate school, and I was doing really well in school. But like Cody, I was lost in all the other aspects of my life. Here we are, two different guys, two different times of our life, but the same stage, struggling with the same questions. And I remembered one night in my studio, feeling lost, I scribbled out a diagram. Notice I was trying to get my shit together then too. Now this diagram may look complex, but it really arises from two fundamental questions. Who am I? And why am I here? And in my diagram, who am I, had three compartments. What do I feel? What do I believe? And what do I think? And this became my inner landscape. And the question why I'm here had three compartments. What do I take care of in life? And what do I do in life? And who do I share it with? And this became the outer world. And between the two, they became a compass and a focus for my self-development. And over years of working in each one of the directions of my life, another question arose. Who is responsible for who I am? I am. And only I am responsible for what I feel, what I believe, and what I think. But I couldn't control the events and people in my life. So how do I negotiate that? And it became clear to me. It was up to me to find a healthy and creative way to take care of all the things in my life, to find a place for my passion and talents, and to create healthy relationships with everyone in my life. And by doing this and constantly working on the 6 compartments of my life, I could create a life worth living.
So like most men, I don't like being told what to do. I am stubborn. I don't like being given a checklist of things I have to do or just having things outlined for me. It's a fantastic picture. The fact that I was the one asking the questions and coming up with my own answers was so powerful. Because I was a cavalry scout, I know how to read a map. So when I saw the map, I could see the stage I was in. I wasn't overwhelmed with all the possibilities. I could focus on that stage and learn to define success for myself. I know how to use a compass. I saw that I had to take radical responsibility for every aspect of my life and that I couldn't ignore any of the compartments of the compass. For once, I knew where I was and I had a mission and purpose again. We worked through the compass on a daily basis. Dale did not have my answers, but he knew what questions to ask. I hated it at first because the questions he was asking me were challenging who I thought I was and what I thought life was supposed to be. The first thing I had to do was figure out why I was so angry and out of touch with all my other emotions. Dale would laugh when I come home and complain about the old men at the gym getting in my way and slowing down my workout, how they ruined my morning. Who are you, he asked, to decide how other people should behave? And damn it, he was right. It wasn't the old men, it was my thoughts about the old men that were ruining my morning. And reluctantly, I saw that I blamed others because I didn't want to look at myself. But when he started to question my beliefs and values, I began to have kind of a conversion. He asked me the Einstein question: is the universe a friendly place? If I could answer yes, then I could live a life in understanding of that universe and that my power and safety would come through this understanding. My mind was absolutely blown. Life didn't have to be a battle. Just walking around town, I couldn't help but notice all the ways the world is supporting my life and everything around me. This led me to believe that life really was on my side. So I've been working the compass for 1.5 years now. And I have grown in more ways than I could ever imagine. I've accomplished more change than I ever thought was possible. Through using the compass, I have come to understand my responsibilities as a man. I will not make excuses. I will not blame others. I will do this for me, and I will do it to the best of my ability. And most importantly, I will share my experiences in order to help other men do the same, because that is what real men do.
Yeah. It's not easy being a man in today's society. But if an architect and a gunfighter can walk in a dance studio and come up with a process that works for someone like me and is working for a guy like Cody and can work for other men. So here's a map to understand the stages in your life and a compass to direct you to each of the compartments of your life. And a list of questions to examine your life and create a life worth living.